Good morning, Lieutenants. I'm going to be reviewing A Dead Bat in Paraguay, which is a book by Roosh V. Some of you know him, some of you don't. It was a very good book. I'd say about 4.25 stars, and I don't do the, well, if I kind of like the book, it's a 4, and you know, if I really liked it, it was a 5. 3 would be average, Bell distribution curve, 4.25, pretty damn good book. B plus, A minus kind of range. Now, before I kind of get into the book itself, there's one thing I do want to mention this. A lot of you know Roosh through his band guides or his website, and I guess that's how he's got his notoriety or popularity. But this book, A Dead Bat in Paraguay, I think is his first, or at least it's one of his earlier works. He was 27 when he wrote it. I'm guessing he had a reference to I Am Legend, which I think was like 2007, 2008. So this is younger Roosh. This is proto-Roosh, before he is the Roosh that we know today. And what's great about that, not that his band guides are bad, but this is a real book. It's not a guide. And it shows you an earlier, younger, more idealistic Roosh on top of a story, which provides a lot of context and hindsight to what we see and know Roosh to be today. So it's not going to be a band guide. It's not that I don't like them, but you know, unless I'm going to go to Poland or something. But this was a book. This was worth reading. Now, in general, what this book is about, he's 27, 28. He wants to go and do something. He wants to go and explore, go on an adventure like all men do. And he decides to do an 8 or 7 year-long trip in South America. It only turns out to be 6 months because he ends up going back a little bit early after he explores enough. So a couple things about it, in addition to it just being a good memoir or a good story. First, South America. I wanted to go, or at least I thought I did want to go to Tierra del Fuego, which is the southern tip of South America, kind of by Antarctica. I thought it'd be great, like I could drive. So I went on the internet, started looking things up, and that movie, Night and Day, where they drive that old Camaro all the way down to, yeah, you can't do that. You need like a diesel truck, and you just don't hop in your car and go. There's a lot more logistics to go into it. So even that, you know, that doesn't intimidate me. But what did was two things. One, Roosh gets sick. He spends most of his trip sick with parasites, bed bugs. The level of sanitation in South America is enough for me not to go. I just don't want to deal with that. And it's not out of a lack, like, oh, I don't want to camp or I don't want to sleep on a futon or anything like that. It's like, no, I don't want parasites in my stomach. So throughout the entire story, it's really bad. Secondly, the transportation, the infrastructure sounds horrible and wretched. Again, I'm not expecting 6-lane highways going 85 miles an hour, but he had to go from a town, Montevideo, Uruguay, I think it was, if I remember my geography correctly, and he had to go up to Porto Azuga or something like that in northern Argentina. I looked at it, it's like 600 miles. It took him 45 hours on buses and layovers and things like that, and that just, no. So if you're thinking about going to South America or, you know, being one of these kind of suburbanite kids, and you get that feel, like you get to see that world of rich little suburbanite Americans and Westerners who go there on their mom and daddy's dime, and they're here to help the children, and he runs into a, I don't know why he was impressed with her. She was a lawyer, she spoke 6 different languages, and all she wanted to do, or not all she wanted to do, but what she wanted to talk about was how to get cultures to come together. Well, that's because your daddy's rich and you can afford such. I mean, what is she, 25? And she's coming up with that stuff on her own? Well, that's not somebody who worked in the coal mines. That's someone who just has idealisms, you know, coming out of her ass. But you get to see that subculture, you know, the youth hostels and the drinking and that. So that's one aspect of South America. The other thing is, this is not just about South America, but one thing I did like about the book is everyone has these ideas, especially men, about these life-changing experiences, and you think that it's going to be this adventure and it's going to be great and it's going to be wonderful. What you don't realize is nothing turns out the way you think it's going to turn out, and what ends up happening is you get exasperated and tired, and you wear out, you burn out. I had my experiences out west going to Wyoming, which is not comparable to South America, but you think there's going to be these great things, and sometimes there are. But you don't see the other curveballs life is going to throw at you and test you. So in the end, two great things happen to Roosh, and why everyone should consider a trip like this. Maybe not South America, but a trip like this. One, he becomes forged and galvanized. Putting your body through this, not physically, but your mind and your body through an adventure like this, at the end of it, you're going to come out a stronger person, male or female. That's the other thing. The other very important thing and why you want to do this, and even read the book, is because it puts things in perspective. Not to be centric upon me, but when I went out to Wyoming, I thought it was going to be the mountains and everything, and it was. The motorcycle riding was great, shooting guns, finding fossils. But then I found out what was really important. That was my friends back home. That was the most important thing. Humans are the most important thing. And Roosh, you see that in the book. He misses his folks and his sister. So, and he knows then what's important in life. Not to mention he gets a vantage point. So going through these life experiences gives you perspective as to what's really important in life, what you want to do, and maybe even brings up more questions as to what you want out of life, as you can read in the later chapters of the book. The other thing, and this is a good and bad thing, is the book could also be titled How Women Ruin a Perfectly Good Trip. If you take out the salmonella, the parasites, the rabies, and the dead bat in Paraguay, what I couldn't help but notice, I know this was, he intended to write a book like this, but here you have a 28-year-old kid, and he's hanging out with all these other Western guys, and all they talk about, 95% of the book, is about scoring with chicks. That's all it is. And what was funny is, here you are in this foreign exotic country, or these multiple foreign exotic countries, and you have all this stuff that you could check out. And it's always about going to a bar, finding girls, getting their asses shot down, and it's kind of like, wait a minute, did you come here for the girls, did you come here for the culture? Admittedly, girls were part of the culture, but what it's a lesson for men that age, even younger. Look, you're going to ruin your life if you always put women first. I'm not saying you don't put women first occasionally or try and find a wife or anything like that, but this shows you how myopic and genetically programmed young men are to have girls on the mind, the entire girl ratings. That's all they got. Girls, 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 sex, sex, sex. And there were times, where, many times, they go out to a party or a club, and then the girls, they do this in South America, the girls disappear to the bathroom and never come back. There's also some logistical problems. Their goal is to have as many sexual encounters and flings as possible. Well, that's kind of hard when all the women live with their parents still because of the poverty, and you guys are staying at a hostel. So there was I wish he kind of fleshed out the logistics of that a little bit more, or his thoughts on it, but he didn't. But they go out, they spend their time, they spend their money, and they'd have nothing to show for it. And so it's kind of a lesson to men, not necessarily in South America, but all across the world, especially in the United States. Your focus in life should be you, not in a selfish, greedy sense, but you can waste a lot of time. The equivalent of getting a doctorate, chasing girls at bars and clubs. And so there's an opportunity cost. Roosh's opportunity cost was that he didn't, I don't know if he really got to fully explore South America. And admittedly, he was sick most of the time, so you didn't. That included. But that's the unintended lesson I think you want to pull from the book. Now, related to that is, it's the sadder part of the book, is the ending of the book. Roosh runs into a gal that really, him and her jibe quite well. And the irony, the dichotomy is, up until the point where he meets this girl, he's dealing with the flukes and the flakes and the floozies. And it's trial and error, failure. None of them are really quality. They're playing their mind games. They're doing the, we're going to get a drink and come back. They never come back. And this conditions Roosh. And you have to understand, Roosh is, by training, a microbiologist. And you can see it in his writing, and not just in his guides, but in this book especially. He would assess, he'd study, he'd take notes, and then he'd ask, do some research about how to get different girls in different countries. He would then concoct a strategy according to that information. Then he'd take the results and the successes or failures of that, further refine his theories and his strategies, a very methodical scientific approach. Well, after training like that, he's been in South America for 6 months, and then he runs into this girl that doesn't fit any of the other, it doesn't fit his strategy, doesn't fit the planning, just hits him right upside the head. And it's funny because it teaches a lesson that all men should listen. And I talk about this in one of my videos, how to avoid the miseries how to avoid the misery of feminism, or how to avoid becoming a miserable feminist. And that is, less than 1% of the girls you're going to meet are marriageable material. And you don't want the previous 100 ruining the 101st. You always got to keep your mind open. You always got to keep that line out there for that girl. And Roosh had this happen to him. The previous 100, 400, who knows how many, I'm sure he didn't keep a tally. Or maybe he did keep a tally. He's a scientist after all. Then the one gal comes, and he's 27, 28. He's been conditioned all this time, and he doesn't know how to handle it. And I don't want to ruin it for you, but it doesn't end as good as it could. And it teaches us a lesson. Now, at that point, very pivotal point in Roosh's life, you can kind of see him switch from this. He wasn't a church-going kid. He wasn't an angel, but he wasn't. He's not the evil Roosh, you know, people would see on the face today. He goes and he has kind of maybe an epiphany, and you could kind of see it like Anakin Skywalker switching to Darth Vader, but not in a bad, evil way. But there's a switch, and you could kind of see like, oh wow, this is how he went on the trajectory path to become what he is today and have the observations. Now, as with some other books, I forget which one I read, you're going to see a big human side to Roosh. All the girls, all the people see is a website guy, how to pick up babes, player, pick up community artist, whatever. You read this, you start to, you see, he's a human more than you ever, he has a heart. He talks about the poverty and the poor kids in various countries. And again, I won't ruin it, but there's a very tender moment that he has. So this is not some evil, conniving, cold-hearted automaton who is programmed just to go out and get as many girls as possible. He was human. He is human. I'm sure his opinions and feelings and ideology has not changed. But you see the product of Roosh in his band guides, website, consulting, stuff like that. You don't see that everyone's a human. You don't see that human side to him that much, but you do in this book. So that's it. The final thing I would say about this, especially the last couple of chapters, I don't read romance novels, so I don't know, but he probably would get more, if women, well, here's the answer, let's put it this way, even though women would not like to read his stuff, the last several chapters of his book, they'll be crying, because it makes for a really good romance novel, I guess, never read one, but it's almost heart-wrenching what he goes through in the end. And I think that every woman out there, if you don't like Roosh or you think he's a sexist or a misogynist, read this book, or at least the last couple of chapters. Read Brazil. He kind of organizes the book based on country that he's in. Read Brazil. And then you see if you know, you may not like or agree with him on everything, but you see if that isn't one, you know, some of the best writing in terms of a romance novel. Two, if you could still view him as this evil cad who, you know, just abuses and takes advantage of women. So that's my review. I will probably be putting together a written review, but hopefully this will suffice in the meantime, because there are many other aspects of the book that I did like, and I took notes on them. But this would just be the video review. So you can get it on Amazon. You can also go to rooshv.com and purchase the book there.